this was a good week of chapters. So we're going to start off with One Piece, chapter 1048, and this chapter was good. Was a good bridge gap chapter, being able to see more of the damage that Orochi had done to the Wano Kingdom as a whole, as well as seeing Kaido's influence on the place as well. Seeing all the daimyo trying to fight Orochi to gain control, only for Kaido to completely get rid of them, as well as the rest of the country's continued devastation under Kaido and Orochi's ruthless rule, and seeing how everyone tried desperately to fight back. Now, Luffy and Kaido's battle is continuing, as we got to see a massive quote-unquote power-up from Kaido, seemingly lighting himself on fire, to be able to take and or melt Luffy's arm to defeat him once and for all. Luffy doesn't back down and plans to defeat Kaido in whatever way he can, and Momo resolves himself to do what Luffy wants and to move Onigashima out of the way so that he can get rid of Kaido. Again, we see the flashback, as I said earlier, and we also see Orochi going after Komurasaki, seeing as how he knows he's pretty much done, as he is not immune to flame like Kaido, and his burning snake dragon self will not survive that ordeal. He goes after Komurasaki, planning to kill her as well to send them both to hell, only for Denjiro to arrive and cut off Orochi's head for the final time. Now, I could see why people would be upset with Orochi continuously coming back again and again and again and again. However, I look at it as Oda wanted to make sure every person that Orochi wronged got a chance to get rid of him, being it that most of the Red Scabbards did beforehand with Kinemon, Kiku, all of them. Even Kaido got rid of him, and Komurasaki got to exact her revenge upon Orochi. The final person here is Denjiro, who got to cut off his head for the finishing blow, protecting Komurasaki. So I think his coming back over and over again was just basically to satiate that everyone got to have their quote-unquote pound of flesh against Orochi, and he is finally done, as he's still on fire, even with his head cut off. There's not much he's going to be able to heal from in this instance if his devil fruit is like that of a Hydra or the actual mythical creature of the Orochi. Either way, this is pretty much definitive, as his body won't survive the flames itself, let alone his head being cut off. Even if it regrows, it'll just be caught on fire again. So I think he's done. He is full on dead. We have finally finished Orochi off, and all that remains is Kaido, and that one is in Luffy's hands. So overall, I think I'll give this chapter an A. It was good to see the final bits of Orochi's story play out, seeing as how he's one of the more over-the-top evil characters in the series. Like, you got a bunch of evil characters, from Blackbeard to Spandam and several others. There are a good amount of evil characters in One Piece, but many of them feel like something really pushed them down that path to a degree. Orochi just feels unnecessarily over the top evil. Like, everything he does was because he was slighted, but now he's going like overboard. So with that, Orochi, who in some ways is probably the most evil character, just because there's nothing redeeming about him in any way, shape, or form, from motivation to character growth in any way or development. Whatever it is, Orochi's quote unquote the worst, and meaning it in that way, not necessarily he's the worst character ever written, meaning he is just a bad person. So he got his comeuppance, and now all that's left is Kaido, who I imagine this punch will really hurt, and then they'll have one final slugfest akin to Kaido versus Rob Lucci. I think I might have said that in the past, but I'll say it again. So I don't think we have too much longer in the battle phase of Wano. I think after the battle phase, after the raid finishes with a all-out victory for the good guys, I think then we'll get to the more interesting stuff of the newspapers, the news of the outside world, as well as Wano opening up if Momo decides to brave up to it, and potentially seeing something akin to Momo talking with Kaido and learning Kaido's story before ultimately they kill Kaido. How they do that, you could figure it out. The samurai were able to cut him, so they might finally be able to cut his head off because of them. Unless he's a fishman, they could drown him. Something. You could think of something, but I don't think Kaido survives. Unless he wants to have the biggest battle of all time at Raftel, but otherwise he's done here with his arc. So the next few chapters should finish up the battle, and then we get to the really interesting stuff. So now we're on to Undead Unluck, chapter 109, and this was a good chapter in the fact that we got to see the beginning and end, to a degree, of the fight between Andy and Rip. We see Rip's resolve. He does not care. We also see how he got the cut on his eye. He was seemingly trying to kill himself, and Latala came in and saved him, but ultimately accidentally cut his eye. And because it was his hand who did it, he wasn't going to heal. And he never did. So they're battling back and forth. Rip and Andy have fought each other so many times, they've adapted to each other's negation ability to the point where Rip thinks he hasn't won because he's damaged Andy's brain, but Andy has adapted as well, going completely berserk and lowering his quote-unquote intelligence to be more wild and chaotic, ignoring the damage to the brain so that he can keep fighting. They keep going, they keep battling, when Latala comes and saves him in the end. By doing so, Latala finally kind of breaks through to Rip, asking why he would never let her actually help, and so she has a plan to stop Andy and allow him to go back in time through the arc. So the plan is basically that Latala was going to hold on to Andy and allow Rip to attack him, get him right in the head while Andy can't move to a degree. And so Latala sacrificed herself to allow Rip to damage Andy's brain to the fullest extent. In theory, this should kill Andy, but knowing how the world works, Andy will somehow be able to now perfectly heal because he's undead and cannot die. It'll be something like that. It'll be interesting to see how this goes to a degree. The fight was good to see them battling back and forth still, and the conclusion was good, as well as seeing how continuously misguided Rip and even Latala are to a degree. I'm curious to see what the next chapter holds in particular with this series because of how the implications here really set up what's going to happen with the series as a whole, as I doubt Andy A is dead and or B really gives up his points to Rip. So it'll be interesting to see what the next chapter brings, in what way this concludes, as again, now Latala is done. The Under and the Union are now all over the place with problems on every single front, as Ragnarok is practically upon them, and there is nothing they can do. So overall, I think I'll give this chapter a B. It was good seeing the fact that Rip and Andy fighting was good, and seeing that Rip won in a manner of speaking, though there is a huge question mark on what's going to happen next. There's also everything else going on, from the fact that Ruin and Seal left. They're just gone. So they got away once again, and Uma Ghost is off running around causing all sorts of problems and still has Fuko. So we'll have to see how this all ends up playing out. Now we're on to Mashle, Magic and Muscles, chapter 106, and this was a good chapter showing more training. We get to see that Dot and Lance are in fact training with Orter, and they're now stuck in some desert place with only 3 bottles of water, and Orter plans on attacking them to try to destroy the water. They have a week to survive. So that'll be a fun way to see how much they grow from that, as Mash continues to grow fighting the sort of machines that Melodol has set up for him. We also get to learn more about the Divine Visionary with him, Ryo, seeing as how he has a family. So it's not just students, as it was seemingly first thought that the Divine Visionaries were. And we get to see more of the dinosaur kid is a money-grubbing leech who only wanted to learn from Melodol to be able to mooch off of that name value. And Mash simply explains that he wants to continue to be able to eat snacks with friends. So we got to see everyone's sort of reason why they're preparing to fight Innocent Zero, which is seemingly the ultimate power in the universe. So overall, I think I'll give this chapter a B. It was good seeing Mash continue to train and level up, as well as some character building for everyone in his side, as well as seeing Dot and Lance try their best to keep away from Order. So we'll see how much longer the training goes, because they still have 25 days before the massive world-ending assault happens from Innocent Zero. So now we're on to Sakamoto Days, chapter 69, and this was a good chapter showing the continued growth of Shin as him and the Shy Guy continue to fight the puppet. Slur's henchman is still controlling him, but not taking it very seriously, as the Shy Guy explains that he can hear at seemingly an impossible degree, as he's able to pick up the radio waves of the helmet, the remote control, so he knows when the attacks are coming in. So they attempt to play this game where they dodge and have Shin read the Shy Guy's mind to get ahead of the puppet. The problem is the Shy Guy's not quite as fast as, say, Sakamoto, so they have a lag as well as the puppet and Slur's henchman, so the Shy Guy can dodge the puppet no problem, but Shin cannot. So Shin decides to rely solely on himself and uses his ability to get the upper hand and even strike at the puppet, hitting a direct hit, because the lag had it that the henchman was not able to block the blow. So the puppet took a square hit, and now the henchman is getting prepared to actually take the fight seriously, though Shin's power is causing problems for him already. So overall, I think I'll give this chapter a B. It was good to see the continued fight, especially as they seemingly moved to a new area, as the ground beneath their feet crumbled into a cave of sorts. So now the fighting will get more intense, as Shin has to really pull every ounce of ability he can to try to survive the puppet, as well as the Shy Guy is going to have to really pull his weight to a degree, as he is going to be more or less pivotal to the victory, as Shin will be able to probably evolve to a degree to be able to defend himself, but I don't think he'll get as many shots in as he hopes, unless he's able to smartly use his power to read the future through muscle movement and get some hits in as opportunistically as he can. But it'll be up to the Shy Guy to really be able to pull off maneuvers that could really help them win at this point. So that was all of the chapters. They were all very good, with One Piece having the fight reach its climax with the final collision happening and us seeing the devastation that Orochi has caused. Undead Unluck had its battle both begin and end, as well as seeing why Rip is doing what he's doing and the resolve of Latala to help Rip save her sister. Mashle continued training, as well as we get to see why everyone's picking their fight with Innocent Zero, as well as Sakamoto finding their reasons to continue to grow and stop Slur's henchmen. So now for everything else, Jujutsu Kaisen was fine, it was good, and Blue Box was fine. Some more major developments within that tale. Yazakura family was good, having it that we get to see the father's motivations, which are extremely psychotic, as it's hard to explain because the father is just a very bizarre villain character, as he's seemingly the final boss at this point, as he's growing more and more ridiculous. He's also extremely overpowered, which I didn't necessarily see coming, that he was going to be that much stronger than everyone else, as he ended up injuring Futaba. So the next few chapters of that should be very interesting. The Elusive Samurai was good. We got to see the continued preparations and the final march to war for our main characters, as well as the information war between the spies on each side. So the battle there should be very interesting, as we're entering a kind of major arc where getting back everyone's territory to raise up a new, more or less, shogun to challenge the emperor. It should be a very interesting way to get there, and we'll see how the main characters grow from all of the battling they're about to do. P times 6 was good. We got to see the conclusion, quote unquote, of Lucky's song, and the fact that he did in fact save Mimin, and that she's going to go off and create her own music for her and her fairies, which is good. I think that's what Lucky wanted, even sacrificing more or less his performance to help his sister. He also is planning to root for her and really wants to see her succeed. We get to see a couple of the other main characters, the one who was trying to stop Mimin by basically getting her to quit because of what she was doing, is now confronted by Mimon, and we'll get to see how that is going to play out. It'll be very interesting to see what happens there, to see if she fully goes to the dark side or if Lucky can kind of keep her on the border of good and bad, as well as some more unique decision making in the series. So I look forward to seeing where this one continues to go. Ashimon was good, as we got the raid to save the main character's companions that were trapped by the villain of this particular arc, seeing more battles and ways of trying to do basically the illegal things and the illegal fighting that they do while trying not to disturb the general public. It is interesting, to say the least, as they try to fight their battles while also not giving up what they're doing. Doron was good as well, seeing how it was mostly character building, and we got to see more interactions between many of the characters we've gotten to know, as well as seeing the spy try to make their move, but because of the character from the last chapter still being friendly with the main character, the spy can't do anything. And we also got to see more Mononoke be summoned from wherever they're summoned from, and more villains be accumulated. So there's some good things being developed there, and I look forward to seeing how that all plays out. So that was all of the chapters. I think they were all pretty good. Now, seeing as how Black Clover is off for another 2 months, I was curious to know if anyone wanted to see a particular series be more featured. So if there is a series you'd like to see get a quote-unquote proper segment, let me know in the comments below. Tell me whatever one, and I'll see if it's one I really wouldn't mind talking more in depth about. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and as always, thank you for watching.